Leaders' questions under Standing Order number 27, and I call Deputy Barry Cowen.
Thank you, Joan Burton. Tánaiste, today I received an FOI, or actually yesterday an FOI from your department. RT obviously received it too. It was very revealing, and by virtue of the fact it was written by a civil servant. It was from the Secretary General of your own department to the Secretary General of the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. And it didn't obviously contain much of the government spin that we've become used to. The first two paragraphs, as you can see, are redacted. We can obviously assume that they refer to the latest, as it was then, government U-turn in relation to planned water charges. But the letter refers to the revised approach by government and how it will impose an additional burden on your own department. It outlines the need for a project team, extra staff, and how resourcing and processing payment of the conservation grant applications in 2015 and beyond cannot, it said, be accommodated from within existing resources and administration budget allocation that you had received. The letter outlines what the Department of Social Protection needed to ensure that this grant processing and the process would be delivered. It talked about consultancy costs as if we hadn't had enough of them, external service provision, including legal and procurement costs, the postal costs as each household would have to be written to, the advertising charges, an administration team and staff to support the application process. And these are the basic requirements, as the letter points out, but if they are to go beyond that, then the costs and the administration supports and the costs associated with it will be escalating severely. In addition to the millions that were spent on consultants in Irish Water, we now have what appear to be, unless you can say otherwise, runaway costs in the Department of Social Protection to service this grant. And there was no mention of these significant extra costs as they're described when the government revised their charges, nor were they debated in this House by the Taoiseach, by you, Tánaiste, or by Minister Kelly. And this letter was written 5 days after the government's announcement. And it's a far cry from the certainty and the clarity that was to be brought to bear, as the Taoiseach said, in this whole area. Information continues, it appears, to be hidden by the government, as they know that every decision they themselves made last year on Irish Water and the charges associated with it have backfired completely. And the more that is revealed, the less the confidence there is in the entire debacle. The Eurostat test results will be out in March, and we see through the FOI and the statement made in the media today by your department that they are still assessing the new initiatives.
Thank you, Deputy.
Even though the government made the decision last November. So the question, Joan Burton, is, were you aware, Tánaiste, that this letter was sent? And if you were, was it discussed with you beforehand? Because I've asked you questions here in the past. I've asked PQs. Our leader has asked you questions about this issue. We've asked the Minister, and we've got no details. And other opposition spokespersons have been asking the same questions. What steps have you taken to address the concerns outlined in the letter? And can you confirm now, at this late stage, the extra costs to the Exchequer that this water conservation grant will actually be?
Thank you.
Can you tell us the costs, for example, in consultancy costs, in administration, and in other support such as staffing measures? And finally, are Eurostat aware of these extra costs? Because the Minister again yesterday said that they had merely consulted the CSO in relation to the rules that pertain to any such submission to Eurostat, but not the content. So can you tell me, can you tell the House, more importantly, by extension the people, are Eurostat aware of this sorry saga in relation to the water conservation grant?
Thank you.
Costs associated with it, because we, the representative of the people, are not aware.
Well, first of all, I just want to remind people that the government agreed and announced in the budget a €100 water conservation grant per household. There had been an earlier proposal to have a direct payment to people on both the fuel allowance and on the household benefits package. the government decided that because quite a few households would in fact be excluded from that, that in fact every household which was signed up to Irish Water and which was paying its water bills, and also those houses which are on group schemes or private wells or septic tanks, that they would also receive it. I think that was a very positive announcement in the budget, and it has been very widely welcomed by people because it reduces the water charge to €60 net for a single individual and to €160 net for a household of 2 adults or more. So it means that the fundamental changes in the water charging structure means that they're now affordable. That's the purpose of the Water Conservation Grant, to assist households with measures in relation to conservation. The Department of Social Protection administers, Deputy, about 85 million payments a year, over 85 million payments a year. And it has been my practice as Minister since this government came into office to seek to find very significant savings and efficiencies in the department through reform of the department system. Part of that, and a critical part of that, is constant engagement and advice and discussion between the Department of Social Protection and other relevant departments. In this case, the 2 relevant departments would be the Department of the Environment and, secondly, the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. Now, I know that this system probably didn't exist when Fianna Fáil were last in government. But if you're going to create, as we have done consistently, for instance, let me give you another example. We completely revamped the system of dealing, for instance, with applications for domiciliary care allowance, which a lot of the deputies in the House will remember. We revised the platforms, and the services and the times in which services are delivered have improved significantly. So in setting up the water payment system, the water conservation payment system, we did the logical thing of setting out a plan, setting out and discussing with the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform any additional resources. And that has been the model that the Department follows, not just for this new initiative, but for all the reforms that the Department has brought in relation to its IT platforms. And I think that's the proper way to do business. And in fact, I would expect you to actually commend the civil servants in the Department for having management structures which operate in the same way as a private firm. In other words, we make plans when we have to do changes, and we give the time and the space to actually work out those plans. So at the end of the day, as you know, the Department of Social Protection, notwithstanding that we pay over 85 million payments a year, as you will know, people like pensioners, other people who receive services and income from the department, receive them as they should, on time and at the appropriate location.
Thank you,
and that's what we want to do with this as well. It's no different
Deputy
to our
Barry
standard policy.
Right, Deputy Cowen, just 1 minute for a supplementary question.
1 minute for supplementary. It's 1 minute to ask the question again, to be quite honest with you.
Well, that's the standing orders, and I hope it will stick to the standing orders.
It should be revised to accommodate the holder of this office.
Deputy Cowen.
Count Corley, last Count Corley, the government came forward with a set of proposals to allay a political time bomb, and they thought they had detonated it safely. But what they've done is they dumped, and you've dumped on your own department. I'll ask you again. Excuse me, Deputy. Excuse me. The last thing I need is to hear from you at the moment, to be quite honest.
Deputy Cowen.
Count Corley.
Order.
Count Corley. Can I ask?
Sorry, deputies, members.
He doesn't get to speak too often, you know what I mean?
Deputy Cowen has the floor, please. Quiet. Minister, please, quiet. Deputy Cowen.
I ask you again, Tánaiste, were you aware that this letter was sent? Did you discuss it with the Secretary-General in your department prior to it having been sent? And can you inform the House how much it is costing your department to administer the conservation grant as you described it? The licence to turn on a tap for the next 4 years, by the way. Can you inform the House now, as I asked you, how much it's costing for consultants, how much it's costing in extra staff, how much it's costing in advertising, how much it's costing to deal with the payment structure? Despite the fact that only 60% of those who you asked to register have registered. That's another problem.
Thank you, Deputy.
And is the Controller and Auditor General, for example, aware of the extra costs? And has he confirmed that it is justified? Because we are the representatives of the people. It is your duty to inform this House of what you're spending, how you're spending it. And you have failed to do that. You have failed to answer my question, as you do weekly. And more luck to you. I commend you for that purpose, but I don't think the electorate will.
Thank you, Deputy.
So maybe you'll answer the question now, and we can give you an extra minute to do so, considering Deputy Burton is as interested as I am in hearing the answer.
No, sorry, Tánaiste Joan. It is 1 minute also for.
Right. The department has put in place. Have I the floor or have you? The department has put in place a project team which is scoping out the business development plan. Well, sorry, the Department of Social Protection has saved this country hundreds of millions in administration in recent years because we prepare project plans, we scope out new developments. Sorry, I understand why Fianna Fáil seems to be sneering with regret, because this was exactly what they were not able to do in their latter years in government in this country when they lost control over the finances of the country. So any new project, and the department deals with several new projects each year, we have a project development team, we scope out the project and we set out in particular what IT developments are necessary to deliver this payment to probably over 1.3 million households. They're the rough figures that we're working on. Now, we aim to pay this payment beginning in September, after people have paid their initial Irish water bills, which I understand will be being sent to people sometime after April sequentially. The Department of the Environment, Irish Water, on whose behalf we are, the Department of the Environment on whose behalf we're administering this payment, will send us the data, and we are, as I said, at the moment sending out, we have a project team. Am I aware of this? Have I discussed it with the senior officials? Yes, of course I have, Deputy. On numerous occasions I have discussed it because we're planning.
Sorry, the Tánaiste to conclude, please.
We're planning to implement. Well, we deliver 87 payments a year, Deputy, to individuals, and we deliver them almost completely on time, on target, and in the correct location. We're aiming now to have a new payment, to deliver the new payment to over 1 million households. Of course we have to sit down and plan it. Do I discuss it with the senior officials? Of course I have discussed it on numerous occasions. On numerous occasions.
Thank you, Tánaiste.
Thank you.